The Overlook is inhabited with spectral figures, phantoms and ghosts. Are they echoes of their human self, victims of the hotel, or are they projections, coming in different forms, different figures, from the Overlook to lure others? Broadcast on certain mental frequencies, only a select few will notice. As always, the alternative theories mentioned within may cause anxiety, rage, and disbelief, but that's why you're here, I hope. Consider leaving a like, share, or subscribe on your way to the front desk. Let's go over the many ghastly characters wandering the halls, lounges, and ballrooms. It's Kubrick versus King. Spirits. Many spirits that make their appearance are atmospheric. Only a few are truly interactive. Danny is the first to see projections directed at him in Stanley Kubrick's film. The Grady daughters invite Danny to come play with them, first in the game room and later in the halls. To Danny, he sees visions of them in the present and in the past that are also clues of a possible future. He rejects them, like pictures in a book, and refuses to entertain them. Danny's not yet explained incident in room 237 directs Jack to the Gold Room bar. Jack's desire for a drink manifests into Lloyd the bartender. You may interpret this as a fully conscious open discussion or, as I do, a dream made in a stupor. Either way, the Overlook is channeling Jack and they are exchanging ideas. When Wendy grabs Jack's attention, Jack visits room 237 to look for a crazy woman that tried to strangle Danny. Appearing first as a naked woman, it's an old hag who had lured him into its embrace. She's a page out of Brothers Grimm. This is supposedly the same crazy old lady in the tub Danny reported to his mother, if you believe the theory. Jack returns to the Gold Room for more spirits. The place is busy with 1920s actors indulging in a good time. Is the Overlook's power of the Shining growing, or has Jack's underappreciated abilities allowed him to see more? We live in its pomp and circumstances. The music makes us feel nostalgia for an era out of reach. He is greeted by Lloyd again and bumps into Grady, Delbert Grady. Was this the same Charles Grady that Ullman spoke of? There are many similarities between Charles and Delbert. Jack even calls them out. Grady himself speaks of many common themes between Grady the caretaker and Grady the butler. From Jack's point of view, he's having another shining moment, seeing the past, present, and negotiating the future. After a maddening discussion Jack has with Wendy, Grady returns to rescue Jack from the pantry. We only hear Grady, who speaks of others, wondering if Jack has his heart in the diabolical plan. We also hear the pantry door unlocking without Jack making a least bit of physical effort. Is this an example of telekinesis? Or did Kubrick mismatch the audio and visuals for other subtle reasons? We no longer see Jack having spiritual visions through his eyes. He doesn't interact with ghosts as he had turned mad. Danny continues to have clairvoyance, but specters do not make appearances physically in front of him. Instead, it is Wendy who begins seeing hotel patrons. They are the two men, one wearing a peculiar bear costume. Then there is the guy who says, "Great party, isn't it?" who may be Horace Derwent if you go by the novel, or it could be this guy. It is certain Wendy is grabbing attention from the Overlook's growing party list, although she is in disbelief and avoids them like Danny. Her final vision with spirits, which is debated over, is a room full of skeletons under bluish light. For some reason, this reminds me of the Pirates of the Caribbean. The spirits who come to life in the miniseries in three-dimensional human form begin with Danny's encounter with the woman of the tub in room 217. This comes soon after Jack has an argument with his father's voice over the radio. I am skipping the hedge animals, as they do not represent prior guests, staff, or management. You know, human types. I'll cover them in a future video. While Danny does see Tony, unfortunately, he's not an overlooked spirit. I'll cover that future man in a future video. Unlike Kubrick, Jack sees no spirit, no old hag in the bathroom. He does later have a vision, unclear if it's solely in his head or a non-linear flashback introducing Horace Derwent. Danny would run into Rover the Dogman in a jump scare scene before Jack meets Delbert Grady as the bartender. Grady escorts Jack to the ballroom, where a full-blown party is held. It's more of a 1940s vibe. He gets little more attention than he's comfortable with, and sees visual cues who the party guests are. Then it becomes clear, or unclear, the party and its guests have not manifested in physical reality, but all in Jack's drunken head. Grady tempts, bargains with Jack, using Jack Daniels as a means to get inside both his head and liver. Grady speaks from a mirror as Wendy overpowers him and drags Jack to the pantry. Grady is one of the most vocal spirits, who also saves Jack from the pantry in return for more violent promises. Grady sometimes is seen looking over Jack's shoulder. Wendy is the last to see the spirits. She does run into physical evidence and disturbances earlier and briefly experiences the hotel coming to life. Wendy hears the band and bumps into an explosive dogman. By this time, we should have been convinced the spirits in the hotel have enough psychic energy to make brief appearances, but nothing more. This becomes more confusing later, when both Derwent and Grady lecture Jack from behind the front desk. The audience can see them. Jack can see them, but not Wendy. She sees and hears nothing. Later, Danny has one other vision, seeing a gangster with a shotgun. Is this history coming to life, or Danny's shining abilities that peeks into history when he wants to or not? The miniseries ending is implicit, with the ghost's evolution from the spirit world into the physical one. Grady and Derwent, side by side, plead with Jack to dump the boiler. They can't do it themselves, yet. It's clear through visuals they have no grasp in the real world, although they're close. This subtle clue gives hint to the motive of the Overlook and the figures inside. They want to come back from the dead and retake ownership. Danny, somehow, in some way, is the fuel for that fire. When I first watched Kubrick's Shining long before the miniseries, and before I read King's novel, I believe the spirits wanted Danny's shine to bring them to life. Maybe some of that surfaced in Dr. Sleep. With later viewings, I leaned to the spirits being projections extracted out of the Overlook due to psychological stresses or isolation. The hotel wanted violence. The more violence there was to be had, the more alive the hotel was. As far as the miniseries, sometimes I think it was little more than a haunted hotel. Danny shared some abilities his Kubrick counterpart had, with a lot more of Tony helping him to see into the future. The spirits lived, died, and suffered there, a theme we see later in similar stories from King in the future. Let me know in the comments below, what were your favorite ghosts from the Overlook? This is Mr. G of Synergy saying, if your best friends are lined up on a shelf, you need better friends. Check out other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching.